My sister-in-law locked me in a closet while I was pregnant because she couldn't have kids. She knew I had severe claustrophobia and I fainted. Now she lost her marriage, her business, and her parents disowned her. I'm 28 years old. I've been married to Daniel for 3 years, and 6 weeks ago I had my baby, a beautiful and healthy girl, but I need to tell what happened before she was born, because basically my sister-in-law tried to hurt me and my daughter when I was pregnant, and what came after destroyed the whole family in ways I never imagined. I guess I should start from the beginning, when we announced the pregnancy like 10 months ago, because that's when everything started to go wrong, though at the time I didn't see it coming at all. Daniel and I had been trying to get pregnant for like a year and a half, you know? Nothing too stressful, but it wasn't happening right away either, and when we finally did, we were super excited. Like we couldn't even wait to tell our families. We organized a dinner at my in-laws' house, Eleanor and Robert, who are amazing people, honestly, very generous and loving, and I was nervous but happy because I knew everyone was going to be happy. The thing is that Daniel's sister, Melissa, well, everyone calls her Melissa, but I've always called her that since we met. She's 30 years old and has been married to Christopher for like 5 years. And they'd been trying to have a baby since they got married. They'd even started IVF treatments that Eleanor and Robert were paying for, because they're expensive, like really expensive. And the business that Christopher and Melissa had opened together wasn't doing very well yet. When we gave the news at that dinner, everyone got super happy. Eleanor almost cried with emotion. Robert hugged us both. My parents were also there, and they were happy. But Melissa, she said congratulations and smiled and all that. But I saw her and there was something weird in her eyes, you know? Like she was upset or sad or I don't know what, but she definitely wasn't genuinely happy for us. She stayed quiet most of the night and left early saying she had a headache, and Christopher looked uncomfortable but followed her. Daniel told me later that she was probably sensitive about the fertility treatments, that we should give her space and be understanding, and I understood that. I really did. Because it must be horrible to be trying to have a baby, and it not working, while you see others achieving it without problem. The months went by and my pregnancy was going perfect. No complications. The baby was growing well. I felt good most of the time, except for the first trimester nausea, which was horrible. And we were decorating the baby's room and buying things and all that stuff. Melissa basically avoided me. Like if there were family gatherings, she would arrive late or leave early. She barely talked to me, and when she did, she was super cold. But, well, I kept thinking it was because the situation hurt her, and that eventually she would get over it. Eleanor a couple of times told me not to worry, that Melissa was going through a difficult time, but that she was going to be okay. And I believed her because Eleanor knows her daughter better than anyone, right? When I was like 7 months along, Daniel and I bought our first house. Nothing huge or fancy, but it was perfect for us. 3 bedrooms, a small yard, in a quiet neighborhood, and we were super excited to move in before the baby was born. My mom and my friends wanted to throw me a baby shower, and I told them we could do it at the new house, since we had the space. So we organized everything for a Saturday afternoon. We invited family and friends, like 30 people total. We decorated everything with balloons and banners and those things. There was food, cakes, typical baby shower games, all the classic stuff. The day of the baby shower came and everything was going amazing. There were a lot of people. Everyone was happy. They were giving me beautiful gifts for the baby. My mom was happy helping with everything. Eleanor was also there, being the sweetest mother-in-law in the world, and even Melissa had come, which surprised me a little, but I thought it was a good sign, like maybe she was starting to accept things. She arrived with Christopher, gave me a gift wrapped in pink paper, told me congratulations with a smile that didn't reach her eyes, and then went to sit in a corner with a glass of wine. I left her alone because I didn't want to make things awkward. It was my day, and I wanted to enjoy it without drama. We were like halfway through the event. We had already played some games, and were about to open the gifts, when Melissa approached me and said in a low voice, "Olivia, can we talk for a second in private? I have something to tell you." I was a bit surprised because we hadn't had a real conversation in months. But I said yes. Sure. Thinking that maybe she finally wanted to apologize for being so distant or wanted to vent about her fertility problems or something like that. I don't know. I was trying to be understanding. You know what I mean? She said to me, "Is there somewhere we can be alone for a minute?" And I said, "Yes. Come on. Let's go to the back." And I started walking toward the hallway that led to the bedrooms and the utility room we had at the end. We got to the hallway, and she was still behind me, and I was about to ask her what she wanted to tell me when suddenly I felt her push me, like hard, with both hands on my back, and I stumbled forward, and before I could react, she had shoved me into a utility closet that was there, a small dark room where we kept brooms and cleaning products and those things. And I heard the door close and the key turn in the lock. I stood there in total darkness, not understanding what the hell had just happened, and I screamed, "Melissa, what are you doing? Open the door!" But I didn't hear anything. Total silence. She had left. And here's where I have to explain something important. I suffer from severe claustrophobia since I was a kid. Like, when I was about 8 years old, I got trapped in an elevator for 2 hours, and since then, closed and dark spaces cause me horrible panic attacks. My heart races. I can't breathe well. I start sweating cold. I get dizzy. It's a horrible feeling that I don't wish on anyone. My family knows it. Daniel knows it. Daniel's whole family knows it, including Melissa. Because once we had to leave a restaurant because the lights went out and I went into total panic. So she knew perfectly well what she was doing to me. I started banging on the door and screaming, "Melissa, let me out, please. I can't be in here." And my breathing was already speeding up. I felt my chest tight. My hands started shaking. I kept banging on the door harder, screaming, "Help! Someone! I'm locked in!" But the music from the baby shower was loud, and people were talking and laughing, and nobody heard me, or at least nobody came. And I was 7 months pregnant in a dark, tiny room, unable to get out, and the panic was consuming me completely. I tried to stay calm, breathe deep, like my therapist had taught me years before, but it didn't work. The darkness was total. The space was too small. I knew I was locked in and that Melissa had the key, and that she had done this to me on purpose. I don't know how long I was there, banging and screaming. Maybe 10 minutes, maybe 15. But eventually my legs started failing. I felt dizzy, very dizzy. My head was spinning. And the last thing I remember is sliding down the wall to the floor and everything went black. I fainted in there, pregnant, on the floor of that dark closet. And I didn't know anything else until I woke up in the hospital. What happened after that, Daniel and other people told me. Turns out 2 of my friends, Nicole and Emily, had seen Melissa leading me toward the hallway, and then they saw her come back alone with a weird face, like satisfied or something, and they thought it was strange, so they asked her where I was, and Melissa told them I had gone to the bathroom, like 10 more minutes passed, and I wasn't coming back. And Daniel started to worry. He looked for me in the bathroom, in the rooms, in the yard, and nothing. Until he heard a faint noise coming from the back hallway. He went there and found the closet door locked. He opened it with the key that was there nearby on a shelf. Melissa had left it there after locking me in, I guess. And he found me lying on the floor unconscious. Daniel carried me, yelled for someone to call an ambulance. The people at the baby shower went into total panic. My mom was hysterical, Eleanor too. And in a matter of minutes, the ambulance arrived and they took me to the hospital. I woke up like an hour later in a hospital bed with Daniel holding my hand and crying, and the first thing I did was put my hand on my belly and ask about the baby. And he told me the doctors said the baby was fine, that the heartbeat was normal, that I had had a severe panic attack that caused the fainting, but that both me and the baby were out of danger. They put me on IV, monitored me for a while, longer, and that night they let me go home with instructions to rest and come back if I felt anything weird. Daniel was furious, like I had never seen him that angry, and he asked me what exactly had happened. So I told him everything, that Melissa had asked to speak privately, had pushed me into the closet and locked me in there knowing I'm claustrophobic. He couldn't believe it. I mean, he believed me, but he couldn't believe his sister had done something like that. And he told me we were going to talk to his family the next day and that this wasn't going to stay like this because she had put my life and our baby's life at risk. The next morning, Sunday, we went to Eleanor and Robert's house, and Melissa and Christopher were also there because Daniel had called them all saying we needed to talk urgently. I was exhausted and still shaken by what had happened, but I needed this to be resolved. We all sat down in the living room and Daniel started explaining what had happened, and before he finished, Melissa interrupted saying, "It was just a prank. Olivia, I didn't think you were going to take it so seriously. I just wanted to scare you a little bit. I didn't know you were going to faint." And I looked at her like she was crazy. Seriously? A prank? Locking a 7 months pregnant woman with severe claustrophobia in a dark closet is a prank? I said to her, "Melissa, You know I'm claustrophobic. Everyone knows it. You locked me in there on purpose, knowing I was going to panic. How the hell is that a prank? And she got defensive, saying, You exaggerate everything. You've always been dramatic. It was only a few minutes. It's not that big a deal. And I was about to explode, but Daniel spoke first and told her, Not that big a deal? Olivia fainted. She was unconscious. We had to take her to the hospital. You could have hurt the baby. What's wrong with you? Christopher was quiet, looking at the floor, and Eleanor and Robert looked horrified hearing all this. Then Eleanor asked Melissa, Why would you do something like that? And Melissa stayed quiet for a moment, and then exploded yelling, Because it's not fair. I've been trying to have a baby for 5 years. I've gone through 3 rounds of IVF. I've spent a fortune. I've suffered horrors. And she gets pregnant just like that, and everyone's happy and celebrating like it's the most wonderful thing in the world. It's not fair that she has what I want. And she started crying hysterically. And Christopher tried to calm her down, but she pushed him away. And that's when Eleanor said something I didn't know. She told Melissa, You've been furious about Olivia's pregnancy since the day they announced it. You've called me crying, complaining, saying horrible things about her, and I've listened to you and supported you financially with the treatments, thinking you would eventually get over it, but I never imagined you would go as far as physically hurting her. Do you have any idea what you could have caused? You could have killed your niece? Is that what you wanted? And Melissa kept crying, saying no, that she didn't want to hurt the baby, that she just wanted to scare me, that she was desperate and jealous, and that she didn't think things through. I was sitting there listening to all this, and I felt a mix of rage and pity, because on one hand, I understand that infertility is painful and frustrating, but on the other hand, she consciously decided to hurt me and potentially my baby because of her own feelings, and that's unforgivable. So I told Eleanor and Robert, Look, I understand that Melissa is your daughter and that you love her, but what she did is unacceptable. She put me and my daughter in danger, and I need you to understand that I can't be around her. I don't trust her. And if you want to continue having a relationship with me and Daniel and your granddaughter who's going to be born, then you're going to have to choose. Because I'm not going to be in the same place as Melissa ever, again. Eleanor looked at me with tears in her eyes and said she understood that what Melissa had done was horrible and that she wasn't going to defend her or justify her, and that if Melissa didn't take full responsibility for her actions, then she was going to take measures. She asked Melissa, Are you going to sincerely apologize to Olivia and accept the consequences of what you did? And Melissa, instead of apologizing, started saying that I was exaggerating, that everyone was being too hard on her, that she was also a victim of circumstances, and basically didn't take any real responsibility. So, Eleanor, who is an incredibly strong and decisive woman when she needs to be, told Melissa, Very well. If you're not going to take responsibility, then I'm not going to continue supporting you either. As of today, I'm not going to pay for your fertility treatments anymore, and you're not welcome in my house until you genuinely apologize to Olivia and show that you understand the gravity of what you did. Melissa froze. Her face went white, and Christopher intervened, saying, Eleanor, please, don't do this. We need that money for the treatments. We've already invested so much. But Eleanor was firm and said, You should have thought about that before hurting Olivia. Melissa completely broke down. She threw herself on her knees on the floor, crying and begging, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Please don't do this to me. I need those treatments. Please, Mom. I'm so sorry, Olivia. I really am sorry. It was a horrible mistake. Please forgive me. But I saw her there on the floor and I didn't feel she was sincere. I felt she was only desperate because they took away the money, not because she really understood what she had done to me. So I told her, Melissa, I don't believe you, and I'm not going to forgive you. At least not now. Maybe someday, but not today. We left that house and the following weeks were weird. Eleanor called us often to see how I was and how the baby was. Robert was also in touch. But from Melissa, we didn't hear anything for like 8 days, until suddenly she posted something on social media. Like a long post saying that her family had abandoned her when she needed them most, that her sister-in-law, meaning me, was a manipulator who had taken her mother away from her, that she was the real victim in this situation. Basically throwing shit at me publicly without mentioning what she had done. And obviously our friends and family who saw that got confused and some wrote to me asking what was going on, so I had to explain the real situation to them. And it was exhausting and stressful and I just wanted all this to end. Daniel talked to Christopher a couple of times, trying to get him to make Melissa see reason, But Christopher was in a difficult position because on one hand he understood that what Melissa did was wrong, but on the other hand she was his wife, and he saw her suffering from the failed treatments and now from losing her family's support, so he didn't know what to do. The relationship between Daniel and Christopher also deteriorated because of all this. They stopped seeing each other, they stopped talking, and it was sad because they had been close. The weeks passed, my pregnancy continued advancing without problems, thank God. I reached 39 weeks. And then I went into labor one night and Daniel took me to the hospital, and after 12 hours of labor, my baby was born. My beautiful and perfect little girl, weighing like 7.5 pounds, completely healthy. And when I held her in my arms for the first time, I started crying with happiness and relief. Because after everything that had happened, she was okay. She was here. She was real. Daniel also cried. We were both there in that hospital room with our daughter, and all the drama from the previous months felt a little less heavy for a moment. Eleanor and Robert came to meet their granddaughter the next day, and they were so excited. Eleanor held her and cried with happiness. Robert also got emotional, although he's quieter with his emotions, and they told us they were so proud of us and so happy to be grandparents. I asked them about Melissa, not because I wanted to see her, but because it was inevitable to ask at some point. And Eleanor told me that Melissa had asked several times to see photos of the baby, but that she hadn't sent her any, because I had made it clear that I didn't want Melissa to have contact with my daughter. And Eleanor was respecting that. Like 2 weeks ago, meaning 4 weeks after the baby was born, Eleanor called me to tell me that Melissa and Christopher had announced they were getting divorced. Apparently the tension from everything that happened, plus the financial stress of the treatments they now had to pay for themselves, plus the failure of their business that wasn't generating enough money, was too much for their marriage, and they decided to separate. They also said they were going to sell the business because they couldn't keep maintaining it together, and basically their life was falling apart. Eleanor told me this with sadness, but also with a kind of resignation, like saying, well, these are the consequences of Melissa's bad decisions. I don't know how to feel about all this. On one hand, I have no pity for Melissa because she chose to hurt me, knowing perfectly well what she was doing, and the consequences she's facing are a direct result of her own actions. On the other hand, it's sad to see how a family can destroy itself like this, to see how Daniel lost his relationship with his sister and his brother-in-law, to see how Eleanor and Robert are suffering from having to choose between their 2 children, basically. But at the end of the day, I have to protect my daughter and myself, and that means keeping Melissa away from us. Eleanor told me that she and Robert are going to maintain their position of having no contact with Melissa unless she sincerely apologizes and shows that she understands the magnitude of what she did. And so far, Melissa hasn't done that. She keeps maintaining her version that I exaggerated and that everyone was unfair to her. Christopher apparently does understand that what Melissa did was wrong, but he's still getting divorced because he says he can't do it anymore with everything. Last week, my baby turned 6 weeks old, and I'm in that new mom bubble where everything is diapers and breastfeeding and sleepless nights. But it's also amazing. She's amazing. And every time I see her, I think about how close I came to losing her because of Melissa. And I get chills. Daniel is a wonderful dad. He's super involved. He gets up with me at night, changes diapers, does everything, and we're adapting to this new life together. Eleanor and Robert come to visit us often, and they're amazing grandparents. My mom is also super present, and we have a good support system. I don't know if I'll ever forgive Melissa. Maybe with years of therapy and if she really changes and takes responsibility. Maybe. But right now, I can't even think about that. My focus is on my daughter and my family, on Daniel and building our life together, and on healing from the trauma of what happened. I still have nightmares sometimes about being locked in that closet, about not being able to get out, about fainting, and my claustrophobia got worse after that. Now, I even struggle to be in elevators that I could tolerate before, if someone was with me. But I'm working on that with my therapist, and eventually I'll be okay, I guess. What I do know is that I did the right thing by setting boundaries and protecting myself and my daughter, and although the result was that a family was destroyed, that's not my fault. It's the consequence of Melissa's decisions. Daniel tells me often that he supports me completely, that he understands why I can't forgive his sister, and that our little family of 3 is the most important thing to him. And that's enough for me. My daughter is healthy. I'm recovering. We have people who love us and support us, and we're going to be okay. That's what matters at the end of the day.